Hello everybody. Welcome back to your favorite YouTube channel, the Old Warlock. Today we're going to be doing something kind of fun. We're going to take a look through the Player's Handbook, the AD&D Player's Handbook, because basically what we want to do is just tell you guys what we do and what we don't use out of this book, and we're going to do some other videos talking about what we do and don't use out of the other AD&D books. You know that we pride ourselves on being first edition Advanced Dungeons & Dragons players, but you know, like anybody, there are some things that we don't use, that we toss by the wayside, and we wanted to show you guys what exactly those are so that you can kind of get a little bit of an insight into how we play the game.
And really what's driving it has been that we have had people requesting this. It's going to be one of those days.
Yep.
One of the reasons that we're doing this video is because we've had people requesting some insight into our homebrewed campaign.
Yes.
And it definitely follows the AD&D, the first edition rules, but there are a lot of other things that we tie into it as well, so we thought we'd do a couple of videos highlighting those things. But this is viewer request. This is not just us deciding that we want to talk about it out of the blue.
No. But
which we often do.
Hopefully you enjoy it, and if you don't enjoy it, well, it's the way it goes.
Yeah. Got nothing much we can do.
Let's get started.
This is all you get. So when I first started playing, I used this. This is the Holmes Basic set that came out in the late 70s. This was the book that we had available for us for D&D rules. We also had, because it's the only thing that was available at my local hobby store, I also have a copy of Greyhawk and Blackmore. Okay, so this really set the tone for how we were going to play the game. And one of the players that I've played with for a long, long time, going way back again to the late 70s, said that he has always viewed our rule set as being basic D&D and the Advanced Dungeons & Dragons books. Those were supplements that we kind of did some picking and choosing in order to come up with a rule set that best fit our style of play. And just if you're interested in looking into Holmes Basic, which I absolutely love, there is a really cool book out. It's called Blue Home Prentice Rules. This really follows this. But let's move on.
Let's.
Not long after we'd been playing, so again, I started in 78, the summer of 78. Not too long after we had been playing, might have been 2 years later, I was able to get a copy of the Player's Handbook. That was the next thing that came along.
Not this kind.
Not this one here. The one that my original is protected and put away,
locked
as people like us do. Mm-hmm. But yeah, the Player's Handbook did have a pretty big impact on expanding the way we approach the game, but it was primarily just through the addition of magical spells. But let's take a look at the Player's Handbook and get some idea of the things that we use out of it. It is most of the things in the Player's Handbook. There's very little that we do not use in the Player's Handbook.
The vast majority is used. So if you have a Player's Handbook nearby, pull it out, read along with us so you can see exactly what it is we're talking about.
And what I might do is I might just throw up on screen. No, I won't throw up on screen. I will put up on the screen the texts that we are going over if I think it's relevant. But let's just go ahead and start from the very first thing that we use.
All right.
And then we'll also explain some of the things that we have changed because they didn't seem to work terribly well.
So what's universally used, the first thing, is really all of the character abilities tables. So strength, dexterity, wisdom, intelligence, charisma, constitution. We use all of the tables for all of those, with the exception, I would say, well, let's just go through them here. We don't really use weight allowance for strength.
Weight allowance, we don't. Now, that's not to say that if you're a strong character, you have a strong character, you don't get bonuses to the amount of weight that you can carry.
Yeah.
But we don't follow it to the fine level of detail that they expect you to do in the Player's Handbook. In other words, X number of gold pieces equals X number of pounds. To me, that's DM's discretion.
Yeah. And it's kind of a loose guideline.
It is, and to go and figure out, okay, well, let's recalculate how many things you have. You know, Derek the fighter. Let's calculate how many things you're carrying and see if your strength can manage that. No, that's a DM call. And so it's just something that my players know, and they also know that if they push the limit on how many things their characters are carrying. I'll probably call them on it at the worst possible moment. So they tend to monitor themselves in terms of how much weight that they can carry. And if they have questions, they just ask me the question straight out. But yeah, some of those things, some of the more nitty-gritty details on strength, don't use them because we think it slows the game down.
Intelligence, yes. Wisdom, mostly yes. Dexterity, absolutely. We definitely use all the dexterity. Dexterity for thieves, yes, but we have made some adjustments because we think that the...
picking pockets.
Well, that's not necessarily for this table, but that's more for the actual thieves table.
Good point.
But we'll talk more about that later. But we don't think that first level thieves are powerful enough, so we've given them a little bit of a boost because they're pretty useless straight out of the gate. Constitution, yeah. Charisma,
I mean, one of the things, maximum number of henchmen. Never have used that. Not even when I was using, even way back in the day. Never used maximum number of henchmen. To me, that was a DM call based on the situation. So we never have used that.
Yeah.
Loyalty base, I use something different on that. And it's kind of, again, it's more dependent on what the players do to maintain the loyalty of their henchmen. But going just off of this table, no. But if you do have a 17 charisma, yeah, you'll get a bonus. But that's, again, it's DM discretion.
Yeah. Into character...
Oh, wait. Reaction adjustment, we don't use that either.
No, that's never been used once. But character races, character class limitations, not really.
No.
That's just kind of... Anybody can be anything as long as it makes sense why that person is that thing. Right. As long as it's has a story behind it and it makes some sort of logical sense, we allow it.
Level limitations? No.
No.
We don't do that. And I think in part that's often because a lot of that is because we very rarely have any characters reach a point to where they've maxed out on their levels, even on this chart.
Yeah.
Most of the characters in my world, 4th, 5th, 6th level, occasionally 7th or 8th, but that's about as far as they go.
It's not permitted past that. Penalty and bonuses for the abilities by races, we do use this. Yes. So, halfling, strength -1, dexterity +1, we do use those when we initially make the characters. Character race table with
minimum maximums on ability scores.
Yeah,
we don't use that.
No, don't use those.
Now, a lot of the things that
we don't really use.
Well, no, actually, we do use most of them.
Some we do.
No, what we're referring to is the different ability enhancements, if you will.
So this is 15, 16, 17
on the player's handbook.
Into 18.
But the different enhancements and the different specialized skills that certain races do use. So gnomes be able to detect a grade or a slope in a passage, upwards or downwards, 80% probability. Yeah, we do use those.
Things like that. Racial preferences table. No, we don't really use that.
Never. I don't think I've ever used that ever.
Character classes, we do use basically all of this. So hit dice spell ability thing. Yep, we use all of that. But we don't use. Well, we don't really. We don't
use class level limit.
Spell ability. Ish.
Yeah. And again, I think that's long been more of a DM call.
Yeah. Character classes, table 2, armor and weapons permitted.
Not really. I mean,
it depends on your mood.
But it really does.
Yeah.
But it's also more related to the realism of the situation in my mind.
So again, if your cleric has some sort of logical reason why they can use a sword, then they can use a sword.
And I have certain clerical classes that use only a sword.
Yeah.
Certain clerical brotherhoods or fellowships that only use a sword. It depends on what I've put into play.
What he's just.
But it's not something that you're going to be able to rely on if you're a player starting in my world. You're going to have to ask me what it is you can or cannot do as a cleric.
So the tables for a lot of the classes, yes, we do use these. So like spells usable by class and level for clerics, yes. Druid. A lot of these things are used here. A lot of those tables. Fighter, again, these same kind of tables here. The Paladin, all of the benefits of Paladins, yes, all of the abilities that they have. And with the exception of some of the following strictures apply to Paladins.
They may never retain more than 10 magic items. Yeah, I mean, I do.
It's looser than that.
Yeah, but I generally enforce a certain maximum amount of magic items that can be used by a paladin. But it depends on the item.
Yeah, depends on the situation.
Yeah, I mean, there may be 3 things that are required for a paladin to complete a quest. I'm not going to count that against what he normally carries that might have magical abilities.
Some more paladins, ranger tables, yes, yes.
Now, one of the major differences that we have is on magic users. Even way back when we first started, I always considered magic users to be woefully underpowered at the earlier levels, and since we usually don't get a 20th level magic user as a player character, non-player characters, yeah. Player characters, no. But one of the things I decided to do way back was to give magic users 6 hit points available when they first start at first level. Then second level, they can only gain 4 hit points per level after that. But we also have the number of spells increased for magic users. So instead of just getting 1 spell at first level, they get 2. But then it goes back to the normal spell levels as allocated in the player's handbook after second level. At second level and on. It's
kind of because if you don't make those adjustments, it's kind of a waste of time to just be a straight up magic user from the get-go. If you want to try and multi-class later, then sure, that's fine. But if you're just starting, you can do 1 spell and you have a dagger and 2 hit points, you're going to die. There's no way.
Same thing with illusionists. We treat illusionists the same way.
Thieves, all the functions, things that they can do, yes. The first Thieves table 1, yeah, we do use that, usually starting with either 5 or 6 hit points.
And then that is something that I have always done, not always, for many, many years I have done. You either get your maximum number of hit points for first level or you get 1 below. So a fighter can get 10 or they can get 9. What you do is you roll a 6-sided die. 1 through 3 you get 9, 4, 5, 6 you get 10. And I do that with all of the character classes. So the magic user, even though they can have a maximum of 6, they will either get 5 or 6. Same thing with thieves.
You got to be able to take kind of a hit if something happens. You can't just be knocked out straight out of the gate. The thief tables, so for like pickpocket, open locks, remove traps, move silently, we do use these, but we've increased, like we said, the abilities for level 1. So as a rule, we boost it by 10%.
10, yeah. I mean,
usually 10%.
And it's only with certain skills.
Yeah.
So picking pockets, we start that at 40%. But you don't go up beyond that. You just have to get yourself to level 4 in order to move beyond that 40%. Because that's the automatic move up to 45%.
Yeah.
So we have alterations for pickpockets. Open locks is the same. That's bumped up to 35. Find, remove traps is up to 30. Move silently, we also do that as well.
That's not quite as high, I don't think. Usually that's up to 20.
That's right. We add 5% and we started at 20.
Yeah.
Hide in shadows, we also have doubled that or added 10 to that so that it's 20% chance of hiding in shadows.
Yeah.
Climb walls, we left alone. Read languages, we really don't use. So
because there's no real read, that doesn't make a lot of sense. That you can just, because you're a thief, you're able to read languages you don't necessarily know. That doesn't make sense.
We think that, and maybe at a higher level, you could make the argument that they have been trying to learn languages in order to understand what it is they've stolen. But for the most part, we don't pay any attention to read languages.
Yeah.
But the race of the thief, we do use those tables to add or subtract
to change
percentage chances.
The bonuses. The assassin things, we don't require assassins to be evil.
Right.
That's really the biggest difference, because you can be good assassins.
We really think that is something that is possible.
Sure, you just go and kill evil things. You're hired to kill evil things.
Which to me is really cool.
Yeah, set of skills, it's just,
But we don't use the minimum fees for assassination.
Which is a shame, because I like this table. I think it's a nice table. But it doesn't make sense that uniformly you would pay this fee always.
Again, that's DM discretion. That's role-playing. That's someone approaching you as an assassin saying, I need to have so-and-so killed. What are your fees going to be? Well, that's going to be dependent on so many variables that you can't hope to use a table to figure that out. So we don't use that.
Same thing. Assassin's Thieves Tale for hit points. Yep, same kind of thing. Again, boosted originally, so you have a higher hit point count from the get-go. Monks, yes. These are similar-ish, but there's less, I think, limitation in what we say with what monks can use.
To me, I love the character of the monk.
Very cool.
But again, woefully underpowered. I think that A 4-sided die for a monk at first level, I mean, that's, you know, you've got a guy who's hauling in nets as a fisherman down at the beach. He's going to have as many hit points as a monk as far as I'm concerned. So we double that. We start off with 1 to 8. Well, actually start off with 7 or 8, but we use an 8-sided die. Really, now what I've done is for the first 2 levels, we haven't had a monk play for years.
For a long time. What
I do is I give the first level monk 1 to 8. Second level, I give them 1 to 8 more possibility. Then it drops into the 4%, or the 4 dice after that. Yeah. But we also turn back just a bit. We also have changed some of the monk's ability table. So open hand damage is 1 to 3 for a first level monk. No, I do 1 to 6 on that. Open hand attacks per melee round 1. Yeah, okay. I can see that. Effective armor class 10. No, I actually make that armor class 8 because I think that a monk they're going, even as a novice, they're going to be trained to move out of the way to adapt to someone who is attacking them with either a weapon or their own open hands. And I just think that the monk is woefully underpowered. I love the character. It's terribly underpowered, so I had to change it.
Yeah. Multi-class character, we do use a lot of these ideas at the very least, even if it's not super specific with the numbers they write in here. 2 characters with 2 classes, same thing. Alignment, yes.
No.
Yeah, it's followed to an extent, but these are very strict and very limiting in terms of how different alignments behave. And you always hear the thing that lawful good is evil if you want to interpret it that way. So we kind of take that and say, neutral good is the best good, things like that. You can interpret it how you want to. There's different ways you look at it.
I don't hold people to, wait a minute, that was your neutral good.
That was a chaotic neutral action.
Yeah, I don't do that. No. That's, to me, as long as you're playing within a reasonably wide or narrow set of parameters, and you're not claiming to be a good character, and then you go and kill a beggar on the street. I'm not going to be too
strict.
Too strict, I guess that is the best term. I'm not going to be too strict about what you do as a character, unless there are certain prescriptions that say your holy order demands of you. And then I might force you to, if you say, if I tell you, your order makes that you have to, demands that you go out and protect women and children, and you bypass that because it just isn't in your best interest of your character at one particular time, then I might say, no, that's part of what you're supposed to do. And to me, that's part of your alignment. But again, a lot of it is open to interpretation, and the ultimate interpreter is going to be the dungeon master in our case. So that's
Allfather. So character languages, we do follow that to an extent. Usually if you're some kind of race, you can speak the racial language in common tongue.
But we do not use thieves' cant.
No.
We do not use alignment languages.
No, that we've never used.
We did way, way, way back early, and John has a funny story about that. It quickly reached a point of there's a language for your alignment, and that's not working for me. That doesn't make any sense. So we tossed it.
Money. We do use money. We have the different classes roll, as it says in the book, for the amount of money you start with. We use the monetary system that's in place here.
10 copper, 1 silver, 20 silver equals 1 gold, so on.
Yeah, the shopping list, we do use that for initial purchases of everything.
We do. But depending on where your character is starting,
you can buy other things.
Well, or I might raise or lower the price depending on the economic situation of where your character is.
Yeah, we talked about the economy in our worlds before and how there isn't a lot of consistency between the books, but tries to be some consistency in play. Armor class table, we do use the armor class table. Weapons.
And I think that the armor class table is one of the
most constant.
It's one of the constant factors. Yeah. I agree. It's how we resolve combat.
Yeah, that never changes.
We are very strict on armor class table.
Yeah. And if there's some kind of weird armor that somebody gets that doesn't fit into one of these, it's interpreted as one of them, basically. Right. So if you have bone armor, and it's like, that's scale mail, and that falls into that category.
Right.
Weapons, the weapon proficiency table, we do use this with how many you get to start with. To an extent, if there's some sort of, again, logical reason that you would know more or fewer, then we go with that. We do use a non-proficiency penalty for things. and the added proficiency in weapons per level. We use that as well. All of the, well, again, weight by weapon type.
No, we really don't.
Yeah, it's kind of it's a loose guideline
for comparative purposes. Yes.
Yeah, but that's it.
For strictly, that's 100. That Becta weighs 100 gold pieces.
You have to tally that up on your.
No, we don't do that. But if you want to carry 6 Becta, yeah, you're going to have me saying at the most inopportune time, "What are you going to do with your 6 Becta while you're at the?" Yeah, so
yeah,
it's up to me.
Damage, we do use that. That's another very consistent thing that never changes for all the weapons.
Versus man size or smaller or large.
Yeah, we do use those. Armor class adjustments, speed factor, space required, length, yes. Space required within reason. Yeah. Speed factor, not really.
Well, we do and we don't.
Yeah, again, it's mostly comparative. It's not using these numbers that are put down here.
Because to me, factoring in the weapon speed factor and trying to calculate that, one person's two-handed sword versus somebody else's scimitar, yeah, I take those kinds of things into account. The person with a scimitar is going to be attacking more often, but again, I think if you're trying to compare speed factors in combat all the time, I'm fighting you with my scimitar, you have your two-handed sword. Oh, I've killed you, I'm turning now to the person with a dagger. Okay, let's see, he's going to get 2. No.
It overcomplicates
it does. And so, again, that's DM discretion. I just tell you, you've got a faster weapon, you've got a slower weapon. Faster weapon goes first until I say no.
Yeah.
Armor class adjustments, we do use those if you want to.
Yeah.
Some people prefer not to because it's a lot of calculating that you have to use. When I play, I use them all the time. But there are some people who don't.
I oftentimes don't, just because while some do have huge bonuses for some things, they have huge negatives for other things. Right. So,
and you either do or you don't.
Yeah, there's you can't pick and choose between just the good or the bad. You have to do one or the other. And I usually don't, but that's to each their own. Because if I have a fist and I'm fighting an armor class 2, I don't want a -7 on what the thing I'm fighting. So,
but at the same time, the DM might step in and say, "Oh, you're going to go up and punch the guy with
a full suit of plate armor."
In a full suit of plate. Okay, there are going to be ramifications for that, but again, it comes down to me to arbitrate what's going to actually happen, or what might happen.
Fire rates for the ranged weapons, usually, yeah.
That
does. We forget to do that a lot, I feel like, but we still do technically use it. Range is more for comparative purposes.
Yeah,
again, it's the same.
It's not. I'm not saying, oh, you've got a longbow. Okay, you can shoot that exactly this far. Now, again, you've got a longbow. I have it in my head how far that bow is going to fire, and the players just need to ask me, how far can I shoot this? Can I hit target X? Yes, you can, and that's how we end up doing it, rather than having all those numbers that we have to deal with.
Armor class adjustment for ranged weapons again.
If you want.
If you want to. Hirelings, henchmen, no. That's kind of just done within the world.
Yep.
Time, not really.
Now, this brings me to a point that we brought up in one of our podcasts.
What point was that?
That we have gotten away from time management in our campaigns.
Yeah.
But we did a video, one of the podcasts, which looked at Eric's. I think was it Eric? Gentleman from Sweden sent us a copy of his homebrew rules for just basic D&D, original D&D.
Yes, I do remember talking about this.
And he pointed out some very interesting things about why you need to keep very close track of time in the dungeon. And don't get me wrong, I have played this game for so long that, do I get out have I gotten out the Dungeon Master's Guide and read it once a year? No. I mean, there have been years that have gone by that I have not read the Dungeon Master's Guide. So when the gentleman from Sweden, whose name escapes me at the moment, but I loved his book.
I think it's Eric. We're sorry.
I'm sorry. I want to say it was Eric Larson, but I can't remember for sure. When he pointed out the real importance of monitoring time well in the campaign, made me go back and think it through, and I also went back to the DM's Guide to look up and see what Gary G had to say about it.
Gary G?
I like Gary G. It's Gary G. It's, when I looked up what Gary G had to say about it, and he was very insistent about you need to maintain good track of time, especially when you're going into a dungeon or you're in an underground complex. It's not so important moving overland, but you need to have that time factor in there to...
Torches, food, water.
And we've kept track of that in an ad hoc way.
Yeah.
But I am actually determined now moving forward that we will be keeping track of time again. The primary reason because it brings about wandering monsters.
It does.
And so rather than saying, well, we're just going to search through this dungeon for hours and hours on end, okay, go ahead and do that, but you'll probably be attacked several times in the interim, and we had gotten away from that. It was a fall down, as far as I'm concerned, on our game. He's happy about me starting to do this.
I'm thrilled. Again. I can't wait. Distance, not really. Again, kind of a comparative thing. It's not something that's...
It's not a hard, fast rule.
Yeah, yeah. Character spells, okay. We're getting into spells now. We use all this.
And this is up to page 40. This is on page 40 of the AD&D Player's Handbook.
Yeah, 40 plus.
We use it all.
Yeah.
We use all the spells.
Every single one of them. If you would like to use that spell, you can. By golly. Let's keep flipping through.
Now, some of the spells that are used, I might make a judgment on the fly about whether or not that spell is going to be effective or not. It's usually a good idea for the players to ask me how a spell might play out, because based on the situation and based on things that they are not aware of, the spell might not work as they hope. Usually it will, but there's always a chance that there's going to be some mitigating circumstance that will not allow it to work the way they hope it does.
That will screw everything up. So through the spells, we've made it to page...
He has no trust in me whatsoever.
No, none. There's no reason for me
He just figures
trust
I'm out to kill him.
At this point. Because he is. We're at page 101 now. Using everything from basically 40 to 101. We use all those. Right. The Adventure, Dungeon Expeditions, Outdoor Exploration is page 101. It's just kind of like, you know, how you
Here's how you can do it, and
yeah.
That's not something that we would refer to ever.
Encumbrance, again, comparative.
Yeah.
That's kind of figured out in the moment. Movement, same kind of thing.
And just a real quick note on movement. Again, that's just rough comparative purposes. I'm not going to say, well, you can only move 12 inches per turn. Yeah. This guy can move 13 inches per turn. Let's do some math and figure out who's going to get from point A to point B quicker.
Because we don't use maps. Like we don't use miniatures or anything like that.
Yeah, miniature. We use maps, but we don't use
maps, not miniatures. So anything that's like laid out on a table to move our people along, we don't do that.
Right.
So this is kind of useless for us. Lights, again, more comparative than anything.
There's a great video about torches.
Actually, where did I see that?
Where did I see that?
Where was that? Oh yeah, it's on our YouTube channel.
YouTube channel. You need to go watch it.
And nobody seemed to like it because we put a lot of effort into it, but we get more views in a day now on something we cranked out like.
Okay. Hold on, take a breath.
It's a really good video.
He really likes the video. We had a lot of fun making it.
We did.
He's very disappointed at the numbers.
Yeah, we tried.
Go watch it because he's driving me nuts.
We tried very hard, and I think you guys would like it too. So go check it out. It's called Torches.
Creative title. Anyway, so yeah, we do use light. We do use burning time of a torch, burning time of a lantern, distance of light thrown from a torch, from a bullseye lantern. We use all that.
Yeah.
We don't use, we did for a long time. I have stopped using infravision because to me it doesn't make a lot of sense. I believe that dwarves and similar creatures who have a long time underground, I do believe that they are going to have more abilities to make things out in very low light conditions. But in terms of being able to see heat forms, no. I don't do that. I don't do ultravision. Silent movement, yeah, we use that. Invisible movement, yeah, surprise, we do use that.
Yeah.
But ultravision, intravision, no.
Okay, traps, tricks, and encounters. We do use those things, but not necessarily as they're written here. Yeah. Initiative, we do use initiative.
But that is just basically rolling a six-sided die. Who
has the higher number goes first. Unless there's a reason that somebody's going to attack first. You get surprised, jumped at from behind.
Or you're quicker.
Yeah.
Using a dagger as opposed to a two-handed sword, whatever.
From here, a lot of these things, communication, negotiation, combat, turning undead, magical control, all of these kind of on 104, 105. We do use these things, but again, not necessarily as they're spelled out here. It's more, it's a little bit looser,
it's DM
less
interpretation.
strict. Yeah,
it really is.
Yeah. Combat procedures, same thing. We do use these, but not super
Not
strictly.
as they are written in the book necessarily.
Yeah. Damage, falling, damage, healing. We do use those, again, same thing. But obedience, morale, not so much. No. Mapping, we do use mapping. We're getting a little bit more strict about that, though, in terms of what maps can be made when, how detailed they are, what materials the characters have to have. Let's see here. Experience.
Experience, we don't.
We do use experience points.
Yes.
But, like, if you find, like, when you have a magical weapon or a magical item and it says the experience point value next to it, we don't commit that to the leveling up experience points. And the same thing with gold. It's what, 1 to 1 when you get a gold piece.
Essentially. And there were reasons behind that.
Yeah, we don't do that either.
There were reasons behind that back in the day, which were actually quite valid. But based on our style of play, I actually award you experience points based on what you have done as a player.
Yeah.
And that might include, yeah, you helped to kill the Manticore, so I'm going to give you. Am I going to split that among the entire party? No, I'm going to split that among the people who played an active role in killing that Manticore. But I'm also going to give more points to the character who came up with the idea for doing it, or who did something outside the plan in order to kill the Manticore.
Yeah.
So experience is much more subjective to what I think you should be getting.
To how well you played.
Right. That's the way to put it. How well you played is how many experience points you're going to get.
Poison, yes, we do use poison, but without the limitations that they place on it. Anybody can use it, as long as it fits within the vague lines of your alignment. Successful adventures, this is kind of where it just goes off on, here's how you play the game. I love this art, though.
Yes,
one of my favorite
that's one of the coolest.
I'm a big fan of that.
I think that's one of the coolest. I love the fact that if you look at this very carefully, there are 2 eyes down in the bottom.
Oh,
at the bottom of the
stairs.
It took me forever to realize that.
Huh.
And to me, that's just really cool. It's very evocative of D&D.
That's pretty neat. I like 107, 108, 109, don't really use those. And then just into the appendices, psionics, we don't use psionics. He wants to start using psionics.
There are non-player characters who do use psionics. Your mind flayers,
Well, yeah.
But
I've never fought a mind flayer, thank the good Lord.
Yes. But in terms of figuring out your psionic ability at the development of your character, no. There are times when we might end up doing that, but psionics really play a very limited role.
With the adventures, the kind of adventures we generally have, it's not something that's significant.
But if you were to come up against a monster that does use psionics, you might have to go and get yourself trained by an NPC in the use of psionics in order to combat that thing. So it's not that it's not there at all, but it's not something we pay a lot of attention to.
So really, all of this appendix we don't use.
Then there are bards.
We don't really have anybody play bards ever.
I don't think I've ever had a bard played in my campaign.
Well, Cody was a bard.
That's true. He was. I forgot about that.
But we didn't. I don't think we used the appendix. To lay all that out. So yeah, if it were demanded,
if someone wanted to,
we would
break out the bard.
It's a rare thing.
Yeah.
Appendix 3, character alignment graph. I've never understood the character alignment graph. It's confusing to me.
And
it doesn't make a lot of sense.
Much anyway.
No. Appendix 4, the known planes of existence. I do like the planes, but these don't make a lot of sense to me either. We don't really use those as they're laid out here. And that's about it. Suggested agreements for the division of treasure. We figured that out on our own.
That's
if
what
wants to kill the rest of the party and take it, then that's up to them.
If they want to try and sneak something out of the pile, they can do that.
Yeah, and then just in the back of the reprints, I don't know if it's in the originals. I don't think it is. Yeah.
Yeah, those are in there.
They are? Okay. Yeah, then it's really just the redone kind of spells, items, magical weapons, things like that. And that's it.
So, by and large, I would say that we use, what? If you include spells, we probably use 90%.
Yeah, 80 or 90% of
the player's handbook. And I think that is